Welcome back to the class. In this class, we're going to understand how do we compute the GAV in the computation of income from house property. We have three cases in regards to let out property. When the house property is let out for a complete previous year, when the house property is let out and was vacant for the whole or a part of the previous year, and when the house property is let out for part of the year and part of the year occupied for own residence. So these are the three situations in which we would be computing the gross annual value. So let us look into the first case. When the property is let out throughout the financial year, the question goes like this. The fair rental value is 9,60,000 and the split is given. Municipal value is 70,000 into 12, that comes to 8,40,000. The standard rent is 60,000 into 12, 7,20,000. And the actual rent is 90,000 into 12, 10,80,000. And now we are requested to calculate GAV. So when we are calculating GAV, we are going to follow three important steps. The first step is we compare the fair rental value and the municipal value. On comparison of this, we get the first part of the second step. So whichever is higher is going to be. So in this case, the fair rental value is higher. And we compare the highest of this, of A and B, with the standard rent of 7,20,000, and whichever is lower is considered, and that is termed as expected rental value. So when comparing higher of A and B and standard rent, our low expected rent is said to be the least of these two, that is said to be 7,20,000. And this expected rent is compared with the actual rent, that is 10,80,000. And finally, on comparing the expected rent and actual rent, whichever is higher is considered as the gross annual value. So on comparing E and F, the highest value is 10,80,000, and that is our gross annual value. Coming to the second question, from the figures given below, calculate the gross annual value. So in this problem, they have given us two houses, house A and house B. And they have given us four important points, that is municipal rental value, fair rental value, standard rent, and the actual rent. So we have three steps in the computation of gross annual value. So for the first step, we compare the municipal rental value and fair rental value. Whichever is higher is going to be considered as the in second step, and that is going to be compared with the standard rent. So on compare for house A, the MRV is 80,000 and the FRV is said to be 1 lakh. And for B, it is 80 and 1 lakh. So on comparison of these two, we get the higher is going to be 1 lakh in both the cases. House 1 and house 2, both it comes up to 1 lakh. And this is going to be considered A and B, whichever is higher. So B is higher, and we are going to compare this B with the standard rent. The standard rent for A is 70 and for B is 1,20,000. So on comparing this, the one which is higher and the standard rent for house A, the least is said to be 70,000. So our expected rental value becomes 70,000 for house B. And for, sorry, house A. And for house B, the A and B, on comparing A and B, the highest is said to be fair market value or for fair rental value, that is 1 lakh. And the standard rent is said to be 1,20,000. On comparing these two, the lowest is said to be 1 lakh, and that becomes our expected rental value. So the expected rental value for house A is 70 and for house B is 1 lakh. And now this is going to be compared with the actual rent, whatever is received. As per the problem, whatever is received is 1,20,000 for house A and 90,000 for house B. So on comparing the ERV and actual rent, for house A, the highest is said to be actual rent, and for house B, the ERV is said to be highest. So whichever is higher becomes your GAV. So A or B. So now in case of A, 1,20,000 is higher than 70. So our GAV in case of house A is actual rent. And coming to house B, As the expected rental value is said to be 1 lakh and actual rent is said to be 1 lakh. Our expected rental value is 1 lakh and actual rent is 90,000. So in this case, our ERV is said to be more. So GAV is said to be a ERV. Thank you. In the coming class, we will look into the sum of problems.